All right, here we go. What's up? Welcome in. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Hope all of you are having a great Sunday. If you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan, hopefully the Phillies about to punch that ticket to the World Series for the first time since 2009. And if you are a Phillies fan, type Go Phils in the comment section. Want to gauge how many of you are also rooting on the Fightins. We have some major Philadelphia Eagles trade rumors to hit on today's show on this NFL Sunday during Week 7. Of course, Philadelphia with that bye week and with the deadline coming up 4 o'clock Eastern next Tuesday, November 1st, the Eagles and Howie Roseman could be scheming, looking to make a monster move. And according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, he did report over the weekend that the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the teams that have made a call to the Carolina Panthers approaching the NFL trade deadline about the stud edge rusher in Brian Burns. And it's easy to see why Philadelphia has an interest in him. They do have a need at that edge rusher spot. They're going all in, putting their poker chips to the middle of the table, trying to improve this roster even further when, yes, they are the last unbeaten team in the National Football League, but this isn't just a move that could benefit this team right now in the immediacy of the moment. When you look at it from the macro perspective as well, you make a trade for Brian Burns. This is a guy who could be an impact player for years to come as well. First round pick in 2019 out of Florida State for the Carolina Panthers, and he has been steadily available and very, very productive throughout his NFL career. A sack machine who does have phenomenal pass rush instincts and a guy who can really just get after the opposing quarterback in a really impressive fashion. He's one of the best edge rushers in the sport, and since he came into the league, 2019, 7.5 sacks, 2020, 9 sacks, ran it back last year with 9 more, and so far this year has 4 going into Sunday, and a combined 61 quarterback hits throughout his career, 32 tackles for loss, 9 pass breakups, a premier edge rusher at a position that the Eagles could look to bolster. And going into free agency, a guy like Brandon Graham expected to hit the open market. So too is Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. So along that defensive line, you make a trade for a young player, and then you give him a big contract extension after this offseason. It could further the talent and add more depth to this Eagles team that is already loaded. As for Jeremy Fowler's report on Brian Burns and the Eagles' interest in him, here's what he had to say on ESPN. Brian Burns, a player that teams are trying to get. The Panthers are telling teams no, that we're probably done after trading Robbie Anderson and Christian McCaffrey. We made some moves. We want to keep core foundational pieces like wide receiver DJ Moore as well as Brian Burns. I'm told teams like the Los Angeles Rams, who barely have a first-round pick, they're trying to get Brian Burns. The Chiefs and Eagles are calling around. He furthered by saying, one general manager told me it's a minimum 2 first-round pick buy-in to get Brian Burns. That's how coveted he is. So the Panthers have some tough decisions to make because teams are going to make some attractive offers. They could have some role players that they move or some backups, but I think their top 5 or 6 players they really want to keep. So we're going to continue to further this conversation and progress it. First, though, here is today's poll question, and I want to hear from you in the comment section. Get in the shoes of General Manager Howie Roseman. Would you give up 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns? Because that seems to be the offer out there. I want you to type G for go for it, S for stop. Let me know right now down below. Now, when you think about where the Panthers are right now with general manager Scott Fitterer, right? The Panthers traded Christian McCaffrey to the San Francisco 49ers. They could make more trades, but there's a difference between trading a running back and trading an edge rusher. During a rebuild, you don't really need a running back on the roster who's making a lot of money at a position that's somewhat expendable, right? That's prohibitive, in my opinion, to building the roster during that aforementioned rebuild. But a 24-year-old edge rusher is a player that's worth keeping, worth locking up, because outside of quarterback, in my opinion, you have to get left tackle right. You have to get an edge rusher. That's how you build your team, in my opinion, from inside out. And it's one of the more important positions to have on a football team. And Burns, since he's gotten into the league, he's gotten off to a really historic start. Only 13 players have more sacks than Burns' 29.5 since 2019. The names here: TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, Cameron Jordan, Shaq Barrett, Trey Hendrickson, Matthew Judon, Robert Quinn, Zadarius Smith, Joey Bosa, Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, and Nick Bosa. So several players there who were in that same type of tier as well as Brian Burns. Goes to show you just how productive he's been as a player. And for me, edge rusher isn't just a need right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a franchise building block over the next several years. Now, I know a lot of you right now are saying this. The price, 2 first-round picks, is way too high. Well, think about it from this standpoint, right? You either use a first-round pick on an edge rusher, and if they end up being that quality player, you have to pay them big-time money in free agency down the road, or you pay big-time money to an edge rusher in free agency. Like, let's say, Hassan Reddick, who's been fantastic for Philadelphia during their undefeated start, and he's making about $15 million per year, and I think that Brian Burns will be somewhere in the neighborhood of that dollar range on an average annual value basis. And for Philly, they do have the draft capital, and they're top 5 in cap space going into 2023 NFL free agency, with 19 free agents looming and upcoming on this Eagles roster. And that Saints pick right now is top 5. So that is a coveted asset for a team like the Carolina Panthers if they do want to sell, trade Brian Burns away, and get some really good draft capital back on top of what they got back for Christian McCaffrey. Now, I do want to round out with this because Adam Schefter did kind of double down on the Carolina asking price, saying that Carolina rejected an offer already of 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns per sources. And he also said that Carolina has no intention of trading him, Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, or DJ Moore before next Tuesday's NFL trade deadline. You think about some of the teams out there when you canvass the landscape in the National Football League. Which teams would have offered 2 first-round picks? You have to throw Philadelphia in that mix. We know that Howie Roseman is always trying to improve this roster. Could he have already offered 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns? Like I said, they do have that draft capital. Top 5 pick from the New Orleans Saints going into 2023, and then their pick right now is going to be probably 31 or 32, at least as of right now. We'll see what happens in the NFL playoffs. But those are 2 first-round picks that I would think about giving up, because the Eagles still have a bevy of picks after those 2 first-round selections. And again, if this is a player who can improve your Super Bowl chances not just this year, but also projecting forward, moving forward for this franchise that is still one of the younger teams in the NFL, then that is the risk-reward analysis that you have to weigh. And honestly, I might think about doing it, because going into free agency, there are few players out there who are better and more impactful than Brian Burns. And you put him on this defensive line alongside Fletcher Cox, Devon Hargrave, Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat. You lose Derek Barnett, which is why you have a depth need at that edge rusher position. It allows you also to kind of conserve players as we progress here during the 2022 regular season, to have them fresh for the playoffs, primed for a playoff run, to try to make another run at the Lombardi Trophy, which would, of course, be the Eagles' second since going back to 2017. Just wanted to bring you the latest major Eagles trade rumors here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Again, answer that poll question down in the comment section. Would you give up 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns? G for go for it. Type S for stop. This upcoming week, we are going to have you covered with the best Eagles news, rumors, analysis. We go live every single Thursday at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. Our watch parties, our live shows have been popping, all thanks to you. So make sure you lock us in, subscribe to the channel. With the NFL trade deadline a little bit more than a week away, there's going to be a lot of great content coming your way, because we give you content every single day here on Eagles Now.